Welcome to another episode of Scott Babbitt's Sales Tales. Let's see, when we last left off, we were talking about hotel experiences. And I promised to tell you about a couple of instances where I shared the room with critters, creatures, however you want to spin it. Long time ago, I was up for a promotion and I had to travel to Toms River, New Jersey. Thought it was a bright idea to take the family, I don't know why, to there. And the kids all came down with bed bug bites. And boy, I never heard the end of that one. That was just a weird experience all the way around. I was in Scottsdale, Arizona, staying in a beautiful bungalow, just really a classy place. And I can remember I threw my luggage on the bed and I closed the door, and it was still daytime and I could see daylight all the way around the edge of the door. And I thought, well, that's not going to stand. We got to do something about that. So I spent the next half hour taking wetting toilet paper and rubbing it together and poking it around the door, caulking the door all the way around to keep the creatures out. And then in the morning, I could just take it once it had hardened and pull on one piece and the whole strip would come out. So I was doing that every evening and every morning, but also not taking into consideration what could have crawled in before I got there and what was crawling in during the day when I couldn't do it. So, that was pretty futile, I'm sure. I was up in Chicago at one of my usual stops. And I left late and got up there and I was tired, had a headache, forgot that they didn't serve food. So I was down in the bar. I think I was eating pretzels and having a beer. And there's a football game on and people were yelling and having a good time and drunk and all that stuff. And I was kind of crabby anyway. And I can remember rocking back in my chair. And there was this big, shiny, green, striped spider in my lap. And of course, I, knocked the beer over, jumped up and did my own rendition of Riverdance and got it off. And, everybody in the bar turned around, looked at me, thought I was having some kind of a fit, and didn't see where the spider went. And then kind of walked around staring at the table and wondering if I had imagined it, if I hallucinated or what. But it was pretty crazy. I like animals. I've owned my share of exotic pets. So, at least I've got a pretty good idea of what's indigenous to certain areas. I'm a pretty good judge of looking at something and going, that ain't from around here. And that spider looked a little exotic to me. And it got me to thinking, people come from all over the world to stay in these hotels, particularly in a place like a metropolitan area like Chicago. And no telling what could get in their luggage and travel with them or what they could bring in. And so along those same lines, I had a similar experience in Indianapolis where I was waiting on a gentleman. And I was sitting in the lobby. And across the lobby, I saw something run from curtain to curtain. And it was quite a distance, so I knew it had to be of some size for me to even see it. And I figured it was a mouse. And I sat there for a little bit waiting. And I figured, I'm going to go over and see what it is. And so I went over and I moved one of the curtains. And for lack of a better description, it was a tarantula. If it wasn't a tarantula, and I realize we don't have tarantulas in Indiana, but if it wasn't a tarantula, it was a tarantula-sized something. And the DNR needs to be notified because, that was a monster. And so I went over and sat down, and we had our conversation. The gentleman showed up, and we had our conversation. And I don't think I heard a word he was saying because I was busy staring at the curtain over there. And I didn't know how to broach the subject that, hey, there's a monster over in the corner there. But, it was pretty crazy. It was really weird. I remember being at the Grand Hotel up in Mackinac Island. It was in September, but it was brutally hot. It was really hot, unseasonably so. And as you know, a lot of those old places don't have air conditioning. So they had all the windows and doors open. And it was about, I remember going out on the famous front porch of the Grand Hotel, and all the guests were out there in their pajamas. Some of the women had curlers in their hair, and it was really kind of funny. But if you've ever spent any time in Mackinac, you know that there's a lot of bats up there. And so when they opened all the windows and the doors, bats came in. And I remember the night manager of the Grand Hotel with a fishing net with a big long handle jumping all over the furniture in the lobby trying to snag a bat. That was kind of funny. I had an instance where, and I learned to be careful after this, but the night before I'd left a Twix bar on my desk, and I wrapped it up and left it on my desk. And so the next morning, have you ever seen the bit in the movie where the eyeball opens and sees something and then closes, and then it registers what it had been looking at, and it pops back open again? That was me. I remember opening my eyes going, oh, that's cute, and then closing my eyes and going, what? And there was a little mouse sitting there eating my Twix bar. So, I jumped up. When I jumped up, he ran off, and I, of course, reported it to the front desk. But, what are you going to do? It's a mouse. So that was kind of funny, actually. A weird one was not too long ago, actually. I was up in Michigan, and I could swear I heard a dog go bark. Bark. And I thought, that sounds like a dog barking, but it doesn't sound like a dog barking. And so I called down to the desk and I go, hey, there's, I think I hear a dog. Nothing. And so this went on. And I finally was insistent. I said, what's going on there? Well, they finally went down, knocked on the door. Nobody answered. Unlocked the door. There was a dog in a dog carrier sitting there, bless his heart. I mean, I don't know if there was a light on or what. But apparently, people had rented the room to park their dog in while they went and visited relatives in town for the weekend. So the dog, I guess, had been there all day and into the night when I'd finally gotten there, and then barked half the night till I got somebody to come in and check on it. And they called animal control, and animal control took the dog away, and they got in touch with the people, and I don't know what happened to the people. But yeah, it was really strange. It was one of those things, like the cadence of the barking was such that it made me question, is that a dog? Or is that something that sounds like a dog? And fortunately, we got somebody to come in and check on it. And, I'll be darned. That's what it was. But, these are just some things that have happened over the course of many, many years. But it doesn't really get weird until I start talking about my actual human roommates. And I'll address that in a future video. But in the meantime, I please ask you to like and subscribe and stay tuned. And until then, take care.